วัสดีค่ะ I'm สดชื่นลิมเกรียงไกร and welcome to Be My Guest, the program that brings you successful stories of institutions and entrepreneurs in both international and domestic arena. In today's episode, we will be talking about how a university and its students can make a difference in a local community. Students who use their skills and what they learn to help make local communities improve their way of living. Let's hear more about it with our guest today. In today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Anuthon Ponpong and Ms. Parisa Musikakama. Both are the lecturer of the Architecture Faculty of Rangsit University. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you for joining us today. So first of all, let me ask you to explain to us about the 4+1 project. What is it about?
4+1 project, the full name is
Yes.
4+1 Loving the Homeland.
Okay.
In Thai name it is 4+1 สำนึกรักบ้านเกิด
Okay.
The project start from the idea that after the fourth year student finish all the theory
Okay.
and practice of the architectural design that is influenced by the Western theory.
Okay.
We want them to return to the basic,
Okay.
to study the local wisdom that is related to the architectural design. So we want to provide the opportunity for them to turn back to the community, which is their homeland, to find or identify the wisdom of their local community.
I see.
And beyond that, we want them to have a co-project with the student of year one.
Okay.
As we want them to have the more participation in the faculty. Our idea is that if they have co-project, the relationship between them will getting better than that they can learn from each other.
I see.
It's an opportunity for the fourth year students
Yeah.
to prepare themselves before they're going away to be part of the practice.
Okay.
It's also part of the architectural course
I see.
where they have to go to an office and work as an internship.
I
So
see.
this is an opportunity for them to create their own office,
I see.
invite the first year students to be their intern.
Okay.
And
So that's the concept of
That's
it.
the concept. Yeah.
I see. So basically, it's like they're owning a company and they're recruiting interns, and then they will have to manage these interns and the idea and everything behind it. I see. So how long has this project been going on for?
This year is the 8th year.
8th year
Yeah.
already. So would you consider it successful so that is why it's been going for the 8th year, or you just thought that the concept is great and that's why it's been ongoing?
Well, so far, from what I've heard from
Yeah.
the older generation,
Yeah.
they have been enjoying this experience
Okay.
where they can go away, buy their own trips,
Yeah.
create their own trips and going away with the first year. And the first year also enjoy the fact that these
Get to
older
travel.
taking them into the places where they haven't been before.
Yeah, of course.
And learning from the older year students.
I see. And out of curiosity, why is it just the first year students being recruited? Why is not like the second or third year as well?
It's basically, I think what they try to do is the oldest against the youngest, basically. Before, basically architecture is a 5-year program.
Okay.
And the 5th year are usually more or less separated because they have to prepare for themselves, thesis and so on. But the 4th year is like the last chance of them to be involved with the rest of the other year students.
Okay. But it's not technically other years. It's just like the first year here.
Yeah.
I think the project type they deal with is important. 4th year student is doing the community planning, the site planning of the community. And 1st year student is designing a house. So it's a good match for each other
see.
to work together.
I see. So it's a better match. That's why you made it a 4+1 idea behind it. I see. So since it's been ongoing for 8 years now, how is it each year different from the year before that? I'm sure that it's not the same concept, not the same idea, not the same group. So how is it different each year?
I think the past 7 years we have main objective of the project, and the past 7 years was happened on the main project. What is different for each year is the main issue or the key issue that the advisor will give it to the students.
Okay.
For example, for the last year is
This year, last year.
okay.
Basically, usually like the last 7 years,
Yeah.
the back to basic idea has been the keywords for the students when they go into these communities in the rural area,
Okay.
and that was our main focus for learning your roots.
Okay.
And this year is a little bit different.
Okay.
The issue has been more broadened. Instead of just learning about the rural community
Yeah.
and their knowledge and wisdom, it's been the objective, the subject is broadened into different ideas, and depending on the studios, which is now separated. And
Okay.
So the fourth year is not learning one subject
Okay.
anymore. It's separated into 7 smaller studio segments,
Okay.
more or less. And
Okay.
every studio has their main focus.
I see.
Some
I see.
studios still remains like focusing on this like really back to basic and local wisdom as a keyword.
Okay.
And in some studios, the project is focusing on different ideas now, and it's not easy to describe basically
I
because
can understand.
it's various now.
I see. So it varies and depends on what they're focusing at that moment.
Some studio are focusing on the technology advancement in a certain area
Okay.
of Thailand.
Okay.
Some focusing on the development of outside forces that causes development, change in development of a community.
I see.
So that it's still going back to the local community,
Yeah.
but on a different
Approach
Approach.
maybe. I
The approach
see.
is different.
I see. So before they decide anything, if they come up with an idea, do they have to go to you to, talk about it, go through about it, or they're just free to come up with the idea, go ahead, and if there's any problem, then come to you?
Okay, on the process, they have to go to the site, to the community, and then they have to collect the data.
Okay.
And on that process, they have to talk to the people in the community
Okay.
to find out what is the problem or what is the issue of the people in those community, and what do they want to be in the future.
I see.
After that, the student come back, analyze the data, and synthesize what is the strategy and the
Okay.
programming of the architecture.
I
And sometimes strategy changes after they actually go into like the site and
when
and
they
talk to-
realize the truths, basically. I
because
see.
the data on the internet is not
Yeah.
what is exactly happening
Of
in
course.
those areas.
Yeah, and when you hear the first-hand problem, then things change obviously. Well, now we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the program. We are still here with Mr. Anuthon Ponpong and Ms. Varisa Musikakama, lecturer of the Architecture Faculty of Rangsit University. สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome back again. So let me ask you about the relationship between the 4th year student and the 1st year student with this project. What did they achieve? Like, of course, they're in different years. They are freshmen, basically. Everything is new to them. And the 4th year, they already have some experience and, been through everything, basically. This is their last learning year. So how is the relationship with them through this project? Does it help enhance anything?
From going to the traveling with them.
Yeah, and this
actually,
project overall.
and before the project, before they travel,
Yeah.
basically. For sure, there's a gap between them because
Of
they're
course.
freshmen and they're 4th year, and
Yeah.
they're actually in separate groups. And the first year they still don't know each other very well, but the
Exactly.
fourth year they are very well connected. And so there was obviously a certain gap between the travel together.
Yeah.
But when the travel starts,
Yeah.
it's been, you can see that there have been a bigger group, and they've become a group of brother and sister,
I see.
and they're very well engaged and they work very well together.
I see. I see. So do you know when the students travel to these provinces, does the teacher go with them, or do you check up on them, or are you involved in anything during their travels?
We do go travel with them
Okay.
in some possible ways that we can.
Like?
And,
In how? Which
and-
way?
and if the trip is not too tough, no, I'm
Okay.
kidding.
So you pick and choose what is easy
No,
and
we
convenient.
always try to go if we can,
Okay.
and most of us goes with them.
Okay.
And for me personally, I don't try to interfere with the work that they're doing, but more or less just guiding them through when there's a problem or when they need a certain type of difficult decisions that they have to make.
I see.
But most of the time, their traveling plans and their research strategies and how they talk and connect with the locals, we're just observing
Okay.
how they progress and how they do and how they solve these issues
I
that
see.
may come along.
I see. So basically you were there, but you let them, navigate themselves unless they really need you to guide them. I see. So, you mentioned earlier that, they are divided into different groups. So how many groups are there? And in each group, how many students are there?
There are 17 groups.
17.
17 groups
a
go
lot.
to 17 area.
Okay.
And each group have students about 10 to 12 persons
I see.
for the fourth year student.
Oh, that's only fourth year?
Yeah.
I
And
see.
another 10 from the first year.
Yeah.
So each
Okay.
group basically consists of approximately 20 students
I
that
see.
travel together.
I see. So we mentioned earlier that they recruit the first years themselves. So do they have to come to you and ask your opinion if this intern, let's say, is suitable for their group for this project, or it's up to their discretion to?
It's really up to them.
Okay.
And they have their own way of recruiting also.
Can you share some of the ways that they've been doing this? Like, how do they do it?
Usually it's very professional basically. The first year has to make their own portfolio,
Okay.
which like combination of their work,
Okay.
and they're handing in on a certain date that the fourth year set up, and the fourth year every group of fourth year has a different way of recruiting, but this we don't involve,
Okay.
but they
So
have
it's
their
up
own
to
way.
them.
Yeah.
I see. So
There are challenges, and they are going on stage and
Oh, they have
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah, they have to present themselves to the
Okay.
first year
First year
student.
Okay, that sounds like a legitimate way of recruiting someone. It puts a lot of pressure as well. So like, okay, since they've already been recruited and joined, and then the fourth year gives the work to the first year students, or they just help support with whatever the fourth year is doing, or do they have their own role in this?
it's a combination of both. Their each fourth year student has a certain task for the first year, depending on how they would want to run their office.
Okay.
And at the same time, they're also returning. Like they're introducing the first year to what has to be done,
Okay.
how to go on site, how to talk to people, how to keep data as an architect. And
I see.
so it's both of ordering and giving back.
I see.
at the same
Helping
time.
is a learning process for the first year student.
I see. So it actually kind of a like teamwork kind
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah.
more than just ordering, but more of a teamwork. So, asking about the community that they go to, I'm sure that there are so many communities in Thailand that is considered rural or needs to be collected data or traditional village. So how do you actually, or how do they actually choose which community is suitable for this project, for their idea or concept?
It depends on their interest and the group interest. I mean, the group advisor will give key issue for them, such like to study the community that still have a wisdom in the way of life,
Okay.
or the community that based on the water, the community that have some kind of problem like housing problem, something
Okay.
like that.
So it's not even an issue.
Okay, so you give them like a problem or an issue to look into, and then they find if any community matches this problem.
Yeah.
And then how do they contact these communities? Like I'm sure like you cannot just send an email or anything like that. You need to actually call and talk and explain. So how do they do, what is the process of contacting the community?
Some group they plan and they contact the community leader
Okay.
for advance. But some group just like walk in, knock the door.
Oh really?
Are
And
there
they're not
anyone here?
surprised, like 18 students just
No, mostly like the local are very friendly and they're really participation level is really high.
Yeah.
And most students get free food and
I
free
can-
access and access to certain area which as a normal tourist you wouldn't get into.
Of
So they've
course.
been really helpful in that sense.
I see.
They have to plan for the accommodation
Yeah,
while
I
they
was
are
gonna
there.
ask, what about the
So 20
accommodation?
people is not easy to find
Exactly.
accommodation at cheap price.
Yeah.
So most of them go to the homestay kind of accommodation, and at that place they will provide food, sleep, and also the information
Yeah.
and the contact person.
I see.
So it's a good point to start.
Yeah, of course. But you mentioned that sometimes they just show up. But then where would they sleep? 18 people, and they didn't expect.
Some stays in like a
Temple.
sala,
Oh, okay.
and some it depends on how organized they are.
Just
But-
make do whatever they
Yeah,
have.
but
basically.
usually they contact in advance, and we make sure that they do contact the local,
Yeah, it's
the villagers,
important, yeah.
the community in advance, and have good information of what is there, what they have to prepare, how do they prepare themselves, and
Okay.
what is needed in those areas. Last year, been away in almost every part of Thailand, east, west, south, and north, and every places where they go faces different kind of problems.
Of course, yeah.
And public transportation is not the
Easy,
easiest way
yeah.
way to get around. So they have most of them contact the locals
I see.
in advance.
I see. Okay. So now we take a quick break once again, and then when we come back, we'll talk more. Welcome back to the program. We are still here with Mr. Anuthon Ponpong and Ms. Parisa Musikakama, lecturers of the Faculty of Architecture of Rangsit University. So welcome back to our third break, which is also our last break here. So let me ask you about the aftermath of the project, basically. So after they traveled, after they went to talk to the locals, received information, so what is the next step when they come back and present these information to their advisors? Do they actually implement these projects, or what do they do with it?
Depends on the projects that the area that they go into.
Okay.
But usually the work that they have to do is including a large scale designing project,
Okay.
master plan. So basically, it's a combination of design studios, site plan subjects, and so the type of project is it's involving reorganizing the whole community area,
Okay.
as well as at the same time redesigning some of the smaller units of smaller scale buildings.
Okay.
So it's a combination of scales and how they work with
Okay.
the information that they get from going to the site.
I see. But do they go back and actually implement this construction or the idea into that community, or it's just like, just an idea that it could happen. This is something that could happen.
In past year, the student have to make the summary book
Okay.
and pass it to the community, and they have to propose. To explain what
Okay.
is their idea and how to implement it in the real world. But to implementation is not that easy because it
course.
depends on various factors. So we just hope that the community will pick some idea from the student to implement it.
I see. So in your opinion, what do you think are the benefits that maybe the local received from the students being there, or the benefits that the students received from being there as well?
For the student, I think go to the field and learn from the real world is the best benefit that they can see, they can appreciate, they can have a consciousness of the local wisdom, of the good things that are there. That is the good point, the good start for their mindset to do the professional works in the future. And for the community, I think some community that student go is not well known. Nobody knows it. So coming of student in the area is something that and they are happy, warmly welcome the student.
I see.
And when the student asks about the community story or the wisdom that they have, they can. I think the process that they transfer the story is the process that make the community itself to realize what good thing they have, and we just hope that this process will lead to the mindset to conserve the wisdom they have to the next generation.
I see. So what is, the objective that you expect, or the outcome that you expect that the students would receive or learn from this 4+1 project as a whole project?
Well, first of all, is the organization and management skills of the fourth year. Meanwhile, is the learning process and the experience that the first year would get, as well as the fourth year. And going to learning outside this whole system of university and from classes. There's a bigger world out there, and the experience that they share and that they get during the time that they travel and work together, I think that's also as much as important as what they learn here when they're in the university.
I see.
We are not expect only the academic knowledge. I mean, we expected that they can improve the skill of communication, the skill of decision making, team working, the kind of social skill that they have to have when they go outside the university and practice in the real world.
I see. So is there any, successful stories maybe from the students who used to be part of this project, and then when they, entered the real working world, that they reminisce or think about the times when they were in this project and being able to implement something they learned into their real life?
Some of our graduate students, they choose the way of professionals jobs to do something like community planning, something like not the
Or the
not
mainstream architecture, but the local.
Because they entered this project and they felt like they liked something like this. Is that so? I see. So that is quite successful. So when you mentioned earlier that the earlier year, not this year, that they had to go back and tell the locals that, okay, this is what we planned, this is what we learned, we like to show you. What did they find? Did they actually implement anything? Did they learn anything? What was their feedback? Did they appreciate it?
The feedback hasn't been that clear because of the scale of project itself. It's reorganizing the whole village.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy to actually implement or actually taking any kind of action with such large scale organization. But the community and the locals, they appreciate how when they have been a focusing point basically, and when the students going and to learn their way of living, I think that's already successful. But the implementation hasn't been taking a real hasn't seen a real outcome yet.
I see.
Actually, I have to say that we receive more than we give to the community.
Yeah.
Our students receive the knowledge and also the skills, so many skills that they can practice with the community people. So actually we receive. We have to say thank you to those communities.
I see. So basically, you are learning something from them rather than actually teaching them something. It's you who's gaining the experience. I'm sure.
And yeah, in that learning process, I think basically the architectural student will design all everything by themselves. So the process is good for them because they have to concern to the people that is the real users of the space. Yeah, so it is a good process for our students to learn this thing.
It's their first take to learn from the real world.
I see.
And not just from classroom.
Not theory, but actually,
And maybe it may be or might not be affecting how they think, the way they think, and how they work in the future. But we hope that it will affect them in some way, more or less.
Of course.
Because it's a good project, and I think we, as part of the group that travel, the feedback has always been good between the students and the locals,
Yeah.
and how they interact and learning from each other.
I see. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us the story. ขอบคุณค่ะ Giving back to the community is something important. Being to help and make someone's quality of life better is crucial to the society. The 4+1 project encourages unity in every level, and that is definitely something admirable. And that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. See you again next time. สวัสดีค่ะ